My sister-in-law's DNA gift to sabotage my marriage ended up exposing her own family's deepest secret. I met my husband, James, in our late 20s, and we fell in love almost instantly. After 2 years of dating, we tied the knot and built a peaceful, content life together. When our beautiful son Nathan was born, it truly felt like we had everything. For years, I believed nothing could disturb the harmony we'd built, until James's sister, Sarah, decided to interfere in our lives. From day one, Sarah and I never meshed well. It wasn't for lack of trying on my part. She simply made it clear she had no interest in liking me. She started off petty. At her wedding, she accused me of trying to upstage her because I wore a cream-colored dress, even though she had picked cream for all her bridesmaids. From that moment, it became a cycle of sly insults, snarky comments, and underhanded digs. If I wore something nice, she'd smirk and say, "Oh, I saw that in a store last year, good choice." When Nathan hit milestones, she'd immediately compare him to her son, Tommy, in a way that made it sound like Nathan fell short. Despite her behavior, James and I tried to keep the peace. We wanted Nathan and Tommy to be close like brothers. For years, we tolerated Sarah's antics until this past Christmas when she took things too far. At our family Christmas gathering, Sarah handed Nathan a DNA ancestry kit. It felt like a strange gift for a child, but Nathan was fascinated by science, so I brushed it off at first. Later that night, James told me that Sarah had made some weirdly pointed comments, saying things like, "It's about time you knew the truth, and secrets never stay buried." That's when it clicked. Nathan has green eyes, while James and I both have brown. Anyone who knows basic genetics understands that recessive traits can appear generations later. But Sarah had been making veiled remarks for years, suggesting that Nathan wasn't James's biological son. I was furious. Not only had she disrespected me countless times, but now she was planting doubts about my marriage and my child. We decided to let Nathan take the test, knowing the results would silence her once and for all. He was thrilled, excited to learn about his heritage, and we helped him submit the sample. Meanwhile, Tommy watched curiously. He was 14, bright, and always eager to be involved, so he asked his parents for his own test. Sarah's husband, Todd, thought it would be a fun family project and ordered one for him, too. What started as harmless curiosity quickly turned into chaos. A few weeks later, Nathan's results came in, exactly as we expected. He was 100% James's son. Then came Tommy's results and everything imploded. It turned out Todd was not Tommy's biological father. Sarah had cheated. Todd was blindsided, completely devastated. He had raised that boy with all his heart, and now his world collapsed. Heartbroken, Todd ordered another test, this time for their 7-year-old daughter. The results confirmed his worst fears. She wasn't his child either. The fallout was immediate. Todd packed his things and filed for divorce within days. The family was in shock, though no one could ignore the irony. Sarah's attempt to destroy my marriage had exposed her own lies instead. Tommy was crushed, and Nathan was heartbroken seeing his cousin suffer. They had been inseparable, but now everything between their families was shattered. Over time, Sarah's life spiraled. Todd pursued full custody of the children, arguing she was unstable and dishonest. Sarah showed up at gatherings looking drained and pale, with red eyes and trembling hands. She looked completely defeated. Then one afternoon, she called me begging for help. She wanted me to talk to Todd and convince him to ease up on the custody agreement. I was speechless. After all the torment she caused, after trying to ruin my marriage, she had the nerve to ask for my help. At first, I ignored her calls. But then I thought about Tommy and his sister. None of this was their fault. James urged me to stay out of it, reminding me how manipulative Sarah could be. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe I could help the kids, at least in some small way. I didn't want them to keep suffering for their mother's mistakes. So now I'm torn. Should I try to help Sarah for the children's sake, or stay out of the storm she created? Things have only gotten more intense since I last wrote. Sarah hasn't stopped calling me, sometimes multiple times a day. Her voicemails are long, emotional, and desperate. I can hear her panic, but my sympathy is wearing thin. James eventually lost patience and called her himself. He rarely raises his voice, but that night I heard him snap, telling her he was done with her cruelty and manipulation. After that, she started bombarding me with text messages, swinging between begging for forgiveness and accusing me of destroying her life. She begged me to speak to Todd, claiming I was her only hope. The next minute, she'd call me jealous and malicious. Through it all, my heart breaks most for the kids, Tommy especially. He's old enough to understand everything, and it's destroying him. Nathan doesn't fully grasp what's happening, but he senses something's wrong. At a recent family get-together, Nathan wanted to play with Tommy like old times, but Tommy was quiet and withdrawn. I had to make excuses for him, saying he was tired, while watching my son's confusion and sadness. Sarah keeps sending me dramatic messages, insisting the family has betrayed her. She refuses to take responsibility. It's always someone else's fault. James and I both agree that Todd has been remarkably composed, though he's clearly broken inside. He's reached out to James a few times, asking for advice on how to move forward. They met for coffee recently, and James came home looking deeply conflicted. Todd confessed that he feels like his entire life has been a lie. He's trying to figure out how to co-parent with the woman who betrayed him. James feels sympathy for him, but also fears getting too entangled in Sarah's chaos. And honestly, I feel the same. Every time I see Tommy's sad face, I want to help. But every time Sarah reaches out, I'm reminded how dangerous her drama can be. All I want is peace for the children. They didn't ask for any of this, and they deserve better. A lot has unfolded in the past few days. Sarah demanded an official paternity test through a certified medical lab, claiming the home kits weren't reliable. Deep down, I think she was clinging to any shred of denial she had left. The lab results came back and confirmed everything. Todd is not the biological father of either Tommy or his sister. Todd looked shattered. Even though he expected it, that final confirmation broke something in him. He said it felt like the last bit of hope had been ripped away, but things took an even darker turn. Todd began investigating who Sarah had cheated with. Eventually, he found out it was one of her coworkers. He confronted the man in person, and things spiraled out of control. They ended up in a physical altercation. Police were called, and Todd was arrested for assault. James had to bail him out. Now Todd faces legal trouble, even though everyone knows he just snapped from years of betrayal. Sarah, of course, is using the incident to paint him as unstable and dangerous, hoping it will help her in court. Todd wants full custody and even mentioned moving the kids to another state to give them a fresh start. I understand why, but it's heartbreaking to think about tearing them from everything familiar. Sarah looks like a ghost of herself, red eyes, sleepless, panicking that everyone's turning against her. Still, she refuses to accept fault, insisting she's the victim. At this point, James and I have decided to support Todd. He's clearly the more stable parent, and the children need a safe, calm home. Thankfully, some things have started settling. The man Sarah cheated with chose not to press charges against Todd. He admitted to the affair when police arrived, but wanted to avoid further involvement. He's cut contact with both Sarah and Todd. That's one small piece of closure. Todd doesn't need to fight anymore with a man who clearly didn't care about the destruction he caused. As for the kids, Sarah and Todd's daughter seems to be coping a little better, though she doesn't truly understand the gravity of everything. Tommy, on the other hand, is struggling deeply. He's old enough to piece everything together, and the betrayal has hit him hardest. Watching him withdraw from Nathan, from the family, from everything, has been heartbreaking. And through it all, I can't help but think how ironic it all is. Sarah tried to expose a secret that didn't exist in my marriage, only to have her own life fall apart completely. Sometimes the truth doesn't just come out, it explodes. That's why I began to focus more on Tommy, even though both kids were clearly victims of their mother's reckless behavior. James and I made it clear that we would stand by both of them, regardless of who their biological parents were. Unfortunately, Tommy's situation has gone downhill fast. Some of his classmates started teasing and bullying him after hearing rumors about the DNA scandal. It led to a few fights, and the school had to call Todd several times. To make matters worse, Sarah has been filling his head with lies, telling him that none of this is her fault, that Todd was cruel to her, and that's why she cheated. Tommy knows what really happened, that Todd isn't his biological father, but hearing his mother twist the truth has left him confused and heartbroken. Sarah seems more concerned with defending her image than repairing the damage she caused. She'd rather destroy what's left of her family than admit her mistakes. It's cruel, and it shows how far she'll go to play the victim. Todd, on the other hand, has fought tirelessly for his children. All he wants is to distance them from the chaos and give them stability. I honestly can't understand how someone who caused so much pain can still act like she's the one who's been wronged. But then again, that's Sarah, selfish, manipulative, and unwilling to take responsibility. This is exactly why James and I believe children should never grow up with a parent who betrays and manipulates others. It's a terrible example, one that warps their sense of trust and morality. We're all praying that Todd wins full custody because if Tommy and his sister stay under Sarah's influence, it will only get worse. Her daughter is still so young, too young to grasp what's happening, and that makes her even more vulnerable to Sarah's lies. Over time, Sarah will twist the truth until the girl starts believing her mother's version of events. That's what terrifies us the most. At this point, both James and I fully support Todd and the kids. Todd genuinely wants to be a good father, and neither Sarah nor the biological dad seem capable of putting the children first. Even James's parents, my in-laws, have chosen to stand with Todd. They're heartbroken over what their daughter has done. A few weeks ago, we decided to skip a family gathering, partly because of a prior commitment, but mostly to avoid the tension and the way Nathan feels when Tommy is upset. Apparently, during that gathering, Sarah started doing what she always does, playing the victim and bashing Todd. But my father-in-law finally had enough. He cut her off in front of everyone and said, "That's enough, Sarah. You're only making things worse for yourself and everyone around you. Look at Tommy, can't you see what your actions are doing to him? We don't deserve this. Your children don't deserve this." Then my mother-in-law added, "I didn't raise you to behave like this. I just pray your daughter doesn't follow in your footsteps." Sarah threatened to leave and take the kids with her, but no one backed her up. My father-in-law calmly told her that if she wanted to go, she could, but the children would stay. He said they'd had enough of her drama and that the kids needed peace, not more turmoil. Sarah stormed off, leaving the children behind. Later, my father-in-law called Todd and invited him to spend the day with them. He showed up right away. According to my in-laws, the kids seemed lighter and happier that day, not completely healed, but clearly more relaxed without their mother's negativity weighing them down. It was the first time in a while that anyone had seen them smile like that. It's sad to admit, but being away from Sarah seems to be the best thing for them. She still doesn't understand that a real mother protects her children. She doesn't use them as weapons. But Sarah only cares about her reputation, not their well-being. A real parent would never put their own pride above their kids' happiness. A real mother wouldn't cheat and then justify it. But here we are. Things have started to turn around recently, and for once, it feels like hope is on the horizon. After that disastrous family event, Sarah found out that Todd had gone to visit my in-laws and she lost it. She showed up at their house and started yelling, demanding to know why they were taking Todd's side. My in-laws stood their ground and told her plainly, they weren't choosing sides between adults, they were choosing the children. They said if Todd provided a safe, stable environment, then they would continue supporting him. Sarah didn't take it well. In a rage, she grabbed something from the front yard and hurled it at her parents' car, smashing a window. That one impulsive act became a separate legal issue. My father-in-law pressed charges, and Sarah had to pay for the damage. It might sound unrelated, but that incident ended up being very relevant in court later. When the divorce proceedings began, things went smoother than anyone expected. There was plenty of evidence of Sarah's infidelity, so the judge sided heavily with Todd. Divorce is never a true win for anyone, but at least Todd wasn't forced to lose more than he already had. The custody battle, however, was a nightmare. Todd isn't the children's biological father, which complicated everything. But after months of court hearings, emotional testimonies, and countless delays, he won. It wasn't easy. Several family members, including James and my in-laws, testified about Sarah's manipulative and unstable behavior. Her violent outburst at her parents' house didn't help her case either. And then came the final blow, the biological father. He only appeared to avoid financial responsibility. Once Sarah lost custody, he realized he wouldn't have to pay child support, so he signed away his parental rights entirely. It was selfish, but in the end it worked in Todd's favor. Now, Todd has full custody of both children. They've started therapy, and while it will take time to heal, they're slowly rebuilding their lives. Sarah still has visitation rights, but they're strictly supervised. My in-laws can see the kids whenever Todd approves, and so can we. Nathan is thrilled to have his cousin back, and seeing them play together again is like watching a bit of normalcy return. There's still a long road ahead, but for the first time in months, there's peace. As for Sarah, I honestly don't know what to say. I blocked her months ago and haven't spoken to her since. She occasionally sends guilt-ridden messages to James and his parents, but their relationship with her is now distant and strained. I don't know if things will ever go back to how they were, or if they even should. All I can say is, sometimes the truth really does set people free, even if it destroys everything along the way. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a comment, hit subscribe, follow for more, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss the next one.